Hey, you gay? So on Thursday, on the 30th of September, I purchased a single ticket to go and see the film No Time to Die, the most recent James Bond film. I'm sure you've all heard of it. The last James Bond film that Daniel Craig is going to star in. It's a very climactic moment, apparently. So this will be the 5th film of this current Bond franchise. I've seen all 5. Obviously, I recently reviewed Casino Royale. You can get my thoughts on that just by clicking on that video. Go check that out for that. I'm not going to reiterate all the shit I said in that just for you, just because you're too lazy to click on another video. It's not a remarkable series of films. Casino Royale is obviously really good. Skyfall, from memory, was pretty solid. Quantum of Solace, from memory, was forgettable, and Spectre was forgettable. Again, from memory. You just don't want to revisit stuff like that when it's just bland and middle of the road. It's like, yeah, it's just, it exists. So really, it's not a particularly impressive series. Each time you go into it, you could get a good film, you could get a mediocre film, you could get a kind of shit film. It's been a very underwhelming series since Skyfall. Again, I haven't seen Skyfall since it came out, but that was a very critically revered Bond film. It even got nominated for Best Picture. I think it got nominated for Best Picture. Should I fact check that? Did Sly just fucking spell it right, you retard? Who cares? Skyfall was also a unique Bond film. Like Casino Royale, it was a creative spin on the Bond archetype. Again, I probably need to rewatch it, but for now I'm just trusting my memory of these like vague images I've got in my head of M dying, and he was getting old as well, themes of that. A little bit like Unforgiven. Spectre was the next one after that, and that was utterly forgettable and really disappointing considering Christoph Waltz was in it as the villain. After Spectre, I kind of realised that James Bond was just another of the many action franchises that they'll just keep making more of so long as they make money, and also depending on how many films the actors want to do. But I'm pretty sure that they're going to reboot it within the next few years. I'll have a new Bond film with a new gay black female soon. So I do just see these Bond films in the same vein as your superhero films or your big budget action films. As for this franchise in particular, I'm really not that arsed about it. I'm interested in going back and watching the old Sean Connery films just to see historically what they're like. I know there's loads of fucking weird problematic shit in there. And honestly, if we're talking about the truth here, I wouldn't have gone to see this film at the cinema if I didn't have to review it. I had no interest at all in this film, other than maybe Rami Malek's involvement, because I love Mr. Robot. So you might think, based on my lack of enthusiasm for the series, that will affect what I think of this new film. And that might be a fair argument, but I think that if the series was just more standout as a whole, I'd like it better. I'm pretty sure I'm going to name this video with a provocative title about me not liking the film or saying it's mediocre or something, so you would have already guessed that the things I've got to say about this film are mostly negative. One obvious flaw that I think most people will agree with me on is there's just too many characters in this film. They have a huge selection of A-list actors to plaster all over the marketing. There are lots of reoccurring characters from past films and lots of new characters, because every new installment to a franchise has to have arbitrary new characters in, even if they don't add anything to the film. And because there are so many characters, only a select few of them actually have a prominent role in the film. So you have James Bond, you have Lea Seydoux, who's the Bond girl, who's his love interest. You have M and Q, who fulfill their role in the film fine. And those are the only characters that have a proper established role in this film. So many of the others felt completely unnecessary. They could have blended roles into each other instead of creating entirely separate characters. So there's Moneypenny, who's a returning character. And there's also this new character who's this black woman who's supposed to be the new 007, and that's supposed to be a little bit of a passing of the torch and this new progressive James Bond figurehead. And you'll be accused of being a racist and a sexist if you say you don't like her, because she's boring as fuck. It's so bland and transparent and repetitive. Like, it's the typical, ooh, I'm a woman and I'm the new 007. Does that bother you, James? I can see it really pisses you off. Just like trying to inspire salt that isn't there. And James is like, oh, it's just a number. And to be fair, he doesn't act like a complete idiot where he's like, oh, no. Haha, men are so mad. You see this all the time. You get this self-righteous replacement character for this iconic hero who insists that everyone must like their character because they're a woman and or a black woman and or a black gay trans woman and or a fucking furry. But the characters themselves are just so mundane because they haven't put the effort in where it counts. I don't give a shit if you're a woman or black. It doesn't fucking matter. But then people will say, oh no, Batcher, you just don't like this woman because she's a strong woman and that frightens you because you're an insecure little pathetic beta male. And last part is partially true, but it's absolute bullshit to think that just because someone is a man, I will like their character. They have to be cool in and of themselves. Daniel Craig's cool, at least in Casino Royale, or it's a good performance. You do realise the main reason that James Bond's always been a dude is because it's been a male-dominated audience, not because of any sexist regime or anything. Way more dudes flock to this shit than women. It's the same with superheroes, why there were loads of dudes in the comic books, because most people who bought comic books were dudes. Also, why didn't they just merge that woman's role with Moneypenny's role? Because she's a character I actually like, who just so happens to be black, so they can fucking jerk themselves off for being progressive. We're familiar with her, Bond's familiar with her, they have good chemistry from what I remember from Skyfall. Like, Moneypenny is just relegated to some random secretary in this. She has so much more charisma than this random woman. But no, I'm a sexist, racist piece of shit who doesn't like to see black females in masculine roles. That's why I absolutely loathe the film Jackie Brown. So as mentioned previously, Rami Malek is in this film. Rami Malek is dear to my heart because of Mr. Robot. He's fucking excellent in that. He's just recently got an Oscar for Freddie Mercury in Bohemian Rhapsody. Immediately got cast in this Bond film, and he's probably going to get snagged up by Marvel anytime soon. He's the villain in this, and he's criminally underused. Just another of the long-running, cliche, semi-European Bond villains that are like, I'm going to make you suffer. Just, I can't be arsed. It's a waste of Rami Malek's time. And because of the overcrowded nature of all the characters in this film, Rami Malek's character is underdeveloped, which is weird because he's supposed to be the main villain. He's one of the selling points of the film. Perhaps the most egregious aspect to this film is Ana de Armas's involvement. I don't really know how to say her name. She's in Blade Runner and Knives Out. She's a really good actress. She was all over the marketing campaign for this film, all over the posters. A chief selling point, she's in it for one sequence at the beginning. She's not in the second or third act, she's only in the first act for one sequence. She's a temporary sidekick to James Bond who adds nothing to the story. She's in it for like 10 minutes. It's unbelievable, and I wanted to get this review out quickly to raise awareness for that. Like, that is just nasty, deceptive marketing. She's the most unnecessary character in the whole film. It's such a diversion from the rest of the plot. Could have been anything else, a no-name. She didn't even really have to be in the scenes that she was in. Functionally. James Bond didn't really need a sidekick there. So yeah, if seeing her was one of your biggest reasons for seeing this film, then I wouldn't go and watch it. It's actually fucked that they do that. It's slimy, it's deceitful, it makes the film feel like a mess. I mean, she is absolutely gorgeous though. I mean, holy shit, she's fucking fit. And this is nothing to do with film criticism, but oh my god. I mean, I fancied her in Blade Runner as well. You know what I mean? You like it. Lea Seydoux got it going on as well. Remember that thing I was saying about not being a misogynist? I've got the most basic bitch, laddish taste in women. I think someone said that to me the other day.
I heard you fancy Ruby.
Q is also a returning character from the Skyfall. He was first in, I think. His role in the film's fitting. You know, he's just the guy who helps him out with gadgets. He's there for enough of the screen time to not make it seem jarring. He's used properly. The only thing to comment on with him is there's a moment where he's preparing a candlelit dinner at his home and Bond comes in to interrupt him. It's supposed to be like a comedic bit. He's like, I'm having a date. And he says, he's going to be here in a minute. What the fuck did I just hear? No, I'm joking. So what was going on there was the studio wanted to have some representation for the LGBTQ community with the least possible amount of LGBT content. There's absolutely no utterance of any more gay stuff in the film. It has completely nothing to do with his character. And maybe you say, oh, that's the point though, because gay has got nothing to do with who you are. It's just gay is gay, innit? You know, it's a casual thing. Maybe you're right. But honestly, what is the more likely reason is that they've designed that to appease the LGBT community, all the while having it so minute that they can easily edit it out of the film for Chinese audiences, because they don't like that shit. They don't like gay shit in their films. They don't fuck with that gay shit. They're fine with men eating cockroaches, they're fine with men eating scorpions, but they're not okay with men eating dick. Easily that can be overdubbed to say she, translated differently with the Chinese subtitles. The whole line could even be cut out. And the only reason my brain operates in that cynical way is because I know Disney already do that with Pixar films. So that was all unfortunate. As well as there being too many characters, it's just too fucking long. It's 3 fucking hours long, but it has the story substance of a 2-hour film, maybe even shorter. And it's weird that there are what are supposed to be prominent characters in the film with so little development, even though there's so much screen time, because it's wasted on pointless other characters. The overlong runtime is also just annoying considering how similar this film is to all the other Bond films that have come out recently in this same franchise. Just plot beats that feel way too familiar. Like, guess what? At the beginning, James Bond's off the grid, he doesn't want to communicate with anyone of the MI6 or whatever, and then later on, just before the second act kicks in, he begrudgingly goes back to work to save the day. That's happened in almost every fucking Bond film to date with Daniel Craig in. It's like, oh, I'm off the grid, I don't do that shit no more, kind of cliche. It's dialogue like, oh, we all thought you were dead, Bond, oh, we haven't seen you for years. Like, we've seen that shit so many times. And Tom Cruise goes rogue in every Mission Impossible film. It's like, oh my god, he's gone rogue. Like, yeah, that's the norm. If he wasn't rogue, that would be the surprise. The next one should be called Mission Impossible by the book, and that would be the big shocker. They'll be like, oh my god, he's actually doing like it by the book. He just got a suit on. Like, yeah, we'll just, yeah, he's in the office building. Yeah, we'll do it properly this time. So there's not really any originality or freshness to this film. I knew it was 3 hours long going in, so I was midway through the film and I was thinking, okay, what has this film got that every other action film doesn't? What warrants this film to be 3 hours long over all the other action films that are 2 hours or just over 2 hours? The answer is nothing, because it has all the conventions and cliches of all other summer movies. It doesn't stand out at all in the modern action movie genre. Like, at least Avengers Endgame had 3 hours because it had so much shit to do, it had so much shit to finish, so many loose ends to tie up. Speaking of which, there was a lot of times in this film where it felt like a Marvel film. There's been a slow Marvelization, because Marvel films are the most prominent blockbusters at the moment. Every other action movie franchise tries to follow the same template or style, so there's a lot of comedic relief in this film that feels very Marvel-y and out of place in what is supposed to be a more gritty James Bond world. That's also a big gripe I have with the film, is that what I really liked about Casino Royale was it was gritty, especially for a 12 or PG-13 film. It was brutal, it was rough. You got a good sense of the violence even though it wasn't that gory. The cock and ball torture scene, again, I said in that review, it was gritty, harsh. The dialogue between him and Vesper was natural, mature, grown up, not schmaltzy and melodramatic like it is in this one. The romance there was just a bit more grounded and realistic. All of that grittiness, all of that realism that made Casino Royale pop is completely removed from this film. I think it's been removed for quite a while, but this is just another showcase of that, this new film. This has just turned into another one of those things that are following in the footsteps of Marvel. Like, yeah, just have a little goofy bit in the side. It's more unfunny than the average Marvel film, and also because it just doesn't fit in this kind of film. Like, these Bond films are for fucking dads. Also, like the comedy, there's some really awful dialogue in here. I wanted to get a good list down and read them all off, but I couldn't remember all of them. I just remember in the cinema going, fucking hell. But there was one where like the black 007 was like, what time is it? And the other person goes, what? And she goes, time to die, and kicks him off like a thing and he dies. Like, even fucking Avengers wouldn't stoop that low in terms of corniness. It's just like, fucking hell, who wrote that? There's this really shit Russian scientist character who's the most like, hey, I'm Russian, I developed the nuclear bomb. Like, the most cliche, I have the formula for you. The most stereotypical Russian scientist villain man. Every time he's on screen, the film's quality drops significantly. He has a lot of bad lines. There's one where, it's hard to really put the context in, but this is like spoilers for the first act. There's essentially this poison that targets DNA, and what this scientist man does is he's being threatened at gunpoint or whatever to say, okay, you're going to use this poison and you're going to target at this specific DNA and you're going to kill everyone or whatever. And what he does, he switches out a formula. So the people that are forcing him to do it are the target ones and they're going to die. They're Spectre. But Spectre think that they're safe and that everyone in the room but Spectre agents are going to die. So the chemical's released and nothing happens, and the Spectre guy's like, hang on, aren't these guys all of these people around are supposed to die? Like, James Bond's there as well. But that doesn't happen. All the Spectre people die. The Russian man double-crossed them. And obviously at this moment you don't know what's going on. You don't know why all the baddies are dying and James Bond isn't. But just to illustrate what's going on to the audience, they have the Russian scientist just stood there going, only Spectre, or something along those lines. It's just like, fucking hell. Where they just blurt out what's going on in the least creative way. Just like, okay, this is going to be confusing. What do we do? Only Spectre. Very nice. King of the castle. King of the castle. And earlier when he does do this switcheroo where he has to like put in the different chip so the formula does a different thing, he has a second replica of the chip in his fucking boot or whatever, and what he does is he feigns knocking this chip off the table so he can pretend to pick it up, and really he gets the other one out from his shoe and puts the switched one back in. I'm explaining it awfully, but essentially he has to feign knocking something off the table in front of a fucking assassin, spy, whatever, some evil spy dickhead. And he just goes like, whoops! Like, fucking hell, this is a Bond film. This is supposed to be at least a little bit intelligent. It's supposed to be like spies and shit. It doesn't have to be John le Carre, but fucking hell. Bond is a slightly more exciting, goofy version of John le Carre. That doesn't mean you get rid of all of the intelligent stuff of John le Carre novels completely. So he's like, oops! Oh wait, here's a good thing. Here's a little hard drive. So say he's just like, oh, gotta do this hard drive. I've got another one under my foot, hidden or whatever. And he goes, oh shit. He's like, oh, I'll just put this last very important piece of this into the machine so it programs it. Oops! Sorry. Bends over, it turns into a porn video. Other stuff, Q's doing a face trace at one point. You've already seen a certain character in the film. They're trying to find him again on the satellite. You already know what he looks like. You've already seen him in multiple scenes. So Q's there and you see all the screens and he finds the face. You see him. So you say, okay, well, that's the guy from before. Q has found him. You know visually, Q has found him on the machine. But then Q goes, that's him! That's the same guy! It's like, fucking hell. Yeah, so there's a lot of insulting your intelligence moments there, which you'll be pleased to know. That's completely different from Casino Royale. Yes, I'm going to compare it to Casino Royale, because Casino Royale represents the best form of a Bond film, like the grittiness, all that shit, the cold, stoic, stark shit. Again, as I said previously, Casino Royale's love story was a bit more authentic, even though I wasn't interested in it. A little less cheesy, a bit more for the grown-ups. The romance in this one is so melodramatic and fairly manipulative and sappy, and I'm going to get into major spoilers now, so get gone. So James Bond has a daughter via Léa Seydoux. When James Bond meets this daughter, this girl, everyone already says, okay, that must be James Bond's daughter. But then Léa Seydoux says, she isn't yours, only to reveal at the end of the film that she is James Bond's daughter. There's no proper bait and switch, it's just the kid's introduced, but Léa Seydoux's like, oh no, she isn't yours. I know what you're thinking, but she isn't. Like, she's trying to say to the audience, no, she isn't. She isn't. Everyone knows she is, though, because why the fuck would she be here? It's the whole fucking point of the film. And then at the end, she goes, oh, yes, she is. And we're like, yeah, we fucking knew that. It's like, you didn't have any clever way of keeping certain information from us, did you? You just said, no, she isn't. She isn't yours, James. She isn't. No. The daughter's introduced halfway through the film, but they wanted to save the big reveal of it being James Bond's daughter till the very end, so they just said, no, it's not. It's not. No. And then at the end, it's like, yeah, it is actually. Sorry, mate. Like, yeah, we all fucking knew, you twat. It just wasn't very good to see Daniel Craig, this cool character that I at the time had associated with the Casino Royale because I just rewatched it, and just seeing him right in the middle of this inoffensive, immature, unsophisticated, indistinct action blockbuster. Like, I associated more intelligence to that character. So since they are going to just reboot the franchise in 2 years or so, what I do is let the new films have an R rating, just to see what you can do with that. A different style again, reinvent Bond, see what cool stuff happens. It's not going to happen, because remember, these are family movies. In Casino Royale, I'm going to bring up Casino Royale again, in that, when he killed people, it felt brutal. You know, in the bathroom, that felt dirty and grim. All the kills in this film are just so wet and soft. I'm not going to be scared of this terrorist organisation when they just kill civilians off screen and they just, like, it's cut to black or cuts away and you just hear bang! It's just like, I don't give a shit. That's fucking baby shit. Like, I'm not going to be scared if there's no blood. It's pathetic. It's honestly so juvenile. More cock and ball torture. More cock and ball torture. Also, back to the bad dialogue, so Anna's character is a CIA agent. She gets into like a small closet room with James and says, take off your clothes. And James Bond says, shouldn't we get to know each other first? And it's like, fuck. Other than it just being a shite joke, James Bond would just know what was going on. You can smell that joke coming a mile away, though, is the thing. Ultimately, the biggest selling point of this film is that it's a tip of the hat, an emotional goodbye to Daniel Craig's James Bond. A lot of the film centres around his relationship with Léa Seydoux's character, but again, that's just schmaltzy and uninspired.
If you feel yourself losing control, I'm not going to lose control.
And like, oh, it's a cute kid, oh, now you care, it's a cute kid. The reason this emotional climax thing doesn't work, this series of films doesn't have a profound thematic through line, neither does Daniel Craig's Bond character. Every time a new film comes out, it's not because they want to further the story, it's because the last one did well. We need to capitalise off that success. They're essentially just individual stories, individual cash grabs that you just gotta hope, or this one, hopefully this one will be good. It's not like fucking Lord of the Rings. Also, major spoilers for the very end of the film. 3, 2, 1. James Bond dies. His death is supposed to cement that heartfelt bookend to this amazing saga. Thing is, his character is 2 films removed from his last provocative story arc. He just represents a shell of the James Bond franchise at this point, so it means nothing to see this happen. If they wanted to end things artistically, they should have done it at Skyfall. There hasn't been a strong continuous character arc throughout all of the different films. They're all individual. For fuck's sake, I'm going to talk about Doctor Who.
Any female ball after 1993 can't cook. All they know is McDonald's.
David Tennant, when he died at the end of the season, whatever, and he goes, I don't want to go. That was genuinely fair. You know, I'm not going to cry over it, but it had something. It was emotional. He was a character that had a multi-season arc, a multi-season development. We felt like we were inside his head, all that stuff that happens with TV show characters. We felt like we were familiar with him. We didn't just see him as an idea of a protagonist, he just was. Daniel Craig's Bond is just a brand. It's just the death of a brand. And this whole saying goodbye is so pretentious. I'm glad this fucking franchise is dead. It's 2 good films out of 5. Hand it to some creative director with the next depiction who can supervise the entire thing. But if I had to compare it to something that's a bit more close to it, Logan, which is a goodbye to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Not a brilliant film in my eyes, but still a good film, still fairly successful at what it was going for. Why is that emotional? Firstly, that's a better film to this because the emotions it's trying to convey within that film on its own are well conveyed by the performances. Wolverine has had this consistent emotional turmoil throughout all the X-Men films. Whether it's been a specific character arc or not, he's always been this tragic character. And I suppose a lot of the rest of it is the goodwill of his character. He's been around for longer. He represented a different era of superhero films, a pre-MCU phase. Both Logan and Unforgiven are celebrations and bookends to entire subcultures of film. This film is just a bookend to a separate brand. Like Daniel Craig's character might as well just be an entirely new person every time a new film comes out. You can see how they're made. These films aren't designed for people who are like going to remember the last one. They're designed thinking, oh, no one's going to remember that was years ago. And plus it wasn't very memorable because we made it a formulaic piece of shit. Like they refer to Vesper in this, but not in any significant ways that'll make you lost. You'll just go, oh yeah, I vaguely remember that actress. They already pulled on all of the interesting themes you could do with James Bond and a love interest in Casino Royale, ever since they've just been rehashing the same shit, apart from Skyfall, which was a study of his mother-son relationship with M, which is why that was also interesting. And also it's about him getting old and getting less competent with age, which was also another reason you should have ended it there. So I guess the problem in that regard with No Time to Die is that this bookend template that it's embodying isn't backed up with any authentically conveyed emotions within the film and is completely reliant on your loyalty to the franchise, which has been an inconsistent franchise at that. It's a pretentious sense of finality to add significance to the film that isn't there. So yeah, honestly, I wouldn't say you had to rush out to see this film. You can avoid it. I wouldn't have seen this film anyway if I didn't want to cover a relevant film on my channel. It's honestly just unnecessarily long and boring, melodramatic love story, generic underdeveloped villain, not at all dissimilar to any other generic action film of the modern era. It's so far removed from that briskness of Casino Royale. It's unnecessary and non-special. So no, I don't recommend it. It's below the quality of your average Marvel film. So yeah, fuck it all, man. It's all shit. It's all gone to shit. Fuck movies. Fuck everything. Fuck the world. Why is it every time I confess my love to beautiful women, they just laugh in my face? The fucking skanks. They don't know what's best for them. Shit. That was like really threatening, wasn't it? Take this, thoughts! Beep. Do you think they should go and see the new James Bond film? Don't be dismayed by the fact that he can literally only do that and he's literally physically incapable of nodding. I might break it if I try and do that. Break the system. Break out of it. Break out of the conditioning. Break out. Nod! Alright, thanks for watching, guys. Oh, I love you. I love you.